Good to go.
All right, good morning. Welcome to our Saturday morning project roundtable. We each take a turn, explain what our project is and what we've been up to, what we're going to be doing, and if we have one, and ask for this week. It is just the three of us right now. If somebody wants to start, I'm just going to go make sure the link. I know I posted the link. The link's there on Facebook. I'll do it as soon as it happens on Sunday, so it's there.
Sure. I mean, I guess mine's pretty quick. Anybody that watched the session yesterday will have a pretty good idea of where things are at. So I guess the quick intro. My project is called WikiLection. It's a platform to fight misinformation, specifically in politics, science, and news. I'm at the stage where I've been drafting up the specs and doing some very basic mock-ups of sort of how things might look. And in yesterday's IdeaCafe, the last half of it, we sort of geeked out and talked about the tech stack and actually went over some of the specs, that kind of thing. So the next step is to actually send the specs over to Matush and Bentley and to get a quote, and we'll actually start to get stuff set up and build it. So my next step is to actually send over the specs.
Nice.
I can go next.
All right.
So I am working on Reason Score. It's a mass agreement tool. It also would be potentially a feature in Adriel's project if it works out that way. So it kind of helps people build agreement. This week I worked on creating an explainer video, and I have it kind of programmed so I can make small changes in the video, re-render it, so I can constantly keep it up to date. And as I change the UI, I can just re-render it. It'll have the new user interface, so I don't have to re-record it every time and try and re-say everything properly. So that was very helpful. And it might be useful in other projects too. If people want to do that, I can show them how I did it. And then this coming week, I'm going to try and do an estimate for Adriel. And I'm also I'm working on a way to, like, if you see a post that you think is a problem in social media, a way for you to generate a link and say, hey, I think some suggested verbiage that says, hey, I think this post is divisive or misleading. And here's a link externally and explaining I'm not going to comment here because it'll just make Facebook want. I'm not going to have the discussion here, but here's an external place we can have the discussion that's more effective. So something that I have several requests. One is when I get the video out, maybe if people would have a look at it and give any feedback. I'll probably be putting out a suggested kind of text on a Facebook post, so any feedback on that, or like how you would phrase that comment that says, here's an external place we can discuss the appropriateness of this post. And then I'm going to be hiring researchers, which we kind of talked about yesterday, but maybe a discussion about crowdfunding research on topics, which might be something Adriel's interested in too, because there might be some overlap. And I guess ideas on what topics that people would be most likely to share. I guess my wife is seeing a lot of stuff on COVID denialism, and I'm not. I guess I have unfollowed all those people. So, anyways.
Right. So it's funny. I feel so out of it this last week, and at the same time I did a lot. I'm doing a lot this coming week. I stopped doing the possibility during the pandemic broadcasts at 8:30 in the morning, besides the solution raising, which is what I'm focusing on. We did the solution raising this last Wednesday on marketing, which I have some stuff to add to what you were just talking about, Bentley, because there was something very similar that was brought up. And then now that we're not doing the possibility in the pandemic, or I'm not doing it, we're starting as of this Thursday doing process raising. So I'm hopefully the first session, which because I've been out of it, haven't actually done the confirmation with, but Shiloh, Eric, and Raymond and I will hopefully be meeting for preliminary session on Thursday at 9 a.m. to say, to make the container safe, to make it ask, like, is this okay? Can we be live on YouTube? Do we want to do it private on YouTube and then put it public after? Can we be more inclusive of people who maybe don't want to be on video or not, right? Or maybe this is where we want to start. And then also Raymond has his protocol.love that he's launching to the Facilitators Guild that I've yet to reach out. I watched the first part that was just broadcast because I wasn't part of it. It was live when it was happening. And then 2 of the live sessions, there's third session. But that seems like a really cool project about transparency and actually facilitating and helping startups be transparent in their startup documents. And so it sounds like something of interest. I just don't know how much I can contribute outside of the meeting itself. And so last week was marketing. This week, we're going to do our solution raising on media. So both the information side and the entertainment side, right? Like media in general. And what do we do for it? Like all solution raisings. What do we do currently? What could it look like in the future? And what could we do with $100,000 and 10,000 people? And our first process raising, which I'm like both excited to buy and also a little bit like, what if it doesn't go well? What if it's horrible? That's kind of the point, and literally the point. It's about like, how can we create a process raising in an agile way? So like the 4 of us having a conversation probably aren't going to be able to come up with something for 10,000. We'll have to come up with something for 24 people and then run it with 24 and see what it's like. And then, you know what I mean? Like keep growing it so that it can get to 10,000 and the process can get to 10,000. And so I'm excited for this Thursday and a little scared. And also I haven't yet put out the stuff to make sure it is this Thursday. I just kind of, it's almost like a save the date. Does this time work for you? So that is where I'm at. I don't really have an ask. I would love to talk more about crowdfunding and the tool that Bentley had mentioned.
You mentioned a IdeaCafe on marketing. Has that been posted to YouTube yet?
Yeah, it's not on the TogetherTec channel. It's on the Jubilee Saves the World channel. I can send it to you. I believe we did it live. The Wednesday ones are done live, so okay. I don't have to make it public. And one of the things that was brought up, I think I brought it up, was the idea of like when an ad runs on YouTube or Facebook and I want to comment on it, but I can't, right? Because the comments are for the YouTube channel itself, not the horrible like media that presented, and having a somewhat like a pop-up ad that's actually like, hey, go here to discuss this, right? So that people can't lie about advertising. And it was specifically for that, for like when there's an ad and I can be like, well, that's stupid. That's misogynistic. That's whatever I want to like have my little rant on, but I want one place for it to go. Because otherwise our option is to like tweet at them on Twitter. They don't care. They already did their market research. They don't care about one person who is offended by their ad or misinformation. But it's I know that's probably not the tool you're exactly talking about, but having it be something that can pop up and be added on here and then one place to go to talk about it, which also is like in your comments when people are having to like, oh, you can go to this other place to have this conversation.
That's the plan for Wiki Election, is to have like a browser extension that can tell if the video you're watching has already been assessed. And then if it has, to sort of show it underneath as it's playing, like here's what the community said. Here's the snippet where they make X claim. Here's if that's true. Here's this. It's not true or not. It's just, the community says maybe a little bit misogynistic.
So for your specific item, Jubilee, are you saying a Facebook ad? I'm sorry, YouTube ad? Well, which one was it?
The one specifically for me, it was when I'm watching YouTube ads, YouTube videos, and specifically there's an ad. Sometimes it's so counter to what the video is. You know what I mean? It's like how to dismantle capitalism, thing for a mortgage and the big banks, and how to make Jeff Bezos richer.
Yeah, so you're specifically talking about the ads that YouTube puts on in front of and in the middle of the YouTube video itself, right?
Yeah, I just like, or watching a TV show, anytime there's an ad, right? There's nowhere to go to actually talk about, is this accurate? Because of course it's not, it's marketing. But what is accurate about this, right? Like they say they're the best toothpaste, but do 9 out of 10 dentists really recommend them? Like what is like a lot of the times when I want to comment, it's just some PC stuff, right? It's like, how did you let this through the boardroom? Like, why is this okay?
Well, that's so useful about that company. Like, hey, this company and this board and this marketing team tends to put out some pretty blank marketing materials. That's still good to know. If you don't want to support a company that does that, cool. Here's the ones not to support.
Yeah. And of course, this wasn't even the adjacent possible. This was in the future, right? This was like one of the things that could possibly be. So like Wiki Election, what it might become sounds awesome. Same with what we generated, but neither of them are happening anytime soon. So how can what we're doing best help you, Bentley, and what you're actually going to actually be doing in the actual world?
Oh yeah. So for that, I have kind of I guess there's several things. I have some sample phrasing because when someone's posting, like let's say you see a Facebook post, and I don't know, is my audio out of sync with my lips, or is that okay for you guys? It looks weird on this end.
It's basically okay. It's like half a second off. I can still read your lips, so we're good.
Okay. So let's see. So let's say you see a post probably on Facebook, like I just saw one from my dad, and it's like, that is wrong. And the post is actually kind of dangerous, right? Not that they shouldn't have freedom of expression, but they should have, that should be then discussed. So I was thinking that, I'd like Reason Score to be a resource that you could post, kind of like a lot of times people will post Snopes and PolitiFact and all these other things and I'm hoping Reason Score would be more effective. So what would that phrase look like that they would be posting? So some feedback on that would be great, and I could share it here, and we could have that as part of the discussion here if we want, as part of the hot seat. And then I do have some ideas to talk through about how that, what comes after that. And so basically I was thinking in this next week to take a couple Facebook posts and do that. The problem is it does take a lot of time because, someone can create a meme in about 20 seconds, but it takes about an hour or more work to debunk it. Now, in theory, if you have a catalog of those debunkings, like on WikiLection or Reason Score, then people can easily share it. If we have that plugin in the future, we can start fighting against that asymmetric warfare situation. Anyways, but yeah, just to start, what do you think of this phrasing, both from the point of the person who created the post being convinced, and also any people that run across the post on the social media. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if y'all want to go there or.
So just before, you mean you actually have some phrasing out, right? You actually wrote it out and want to feedback. Just before that, yes, is what was coming up is, I know when someone writes something, right, that can be debunked rather easily, and someone posts like a Snoops link, we know, right, because it's Snoops. And there's something about the URL itself that is like, if it's under the branding of Reason Score, I don't know if it will. It needs a tag on, like it needs so that it's branded as like this link is something like one spot to discuss, right? Like something that kind of is getting through the point of like, we need one spot to go to this, right? Or something about trust, something about that makes that obvious without needing to have the explanation itself in the, because you're not going to be there to post every time. It's supposed to be like, as anyone's posting, that this becomes the brand of here's where we go to discuss this. And if it's in the title itself somehow, then that feels like that's.
Well, yeah, although I guess I'm not concerned about the branding, because the goal isn't that. I think in the description, we just need to say, here's a place that we can have this discussion, because I am not going to have it on Facebook. And here's what we need.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think it's important. The problem with the Snopes brand and the PolitiFact brand is that they have now a lot of people automatically dismiss them because they see it as biased. Mm-hmm. So which is going to be a risk that we got to work around too. But yeah, so I think if they explicitly say, here's where I'm willing to discuss this, and I'm not even going to tell you why you're wrong here. I'm just saying I believe you're wrong. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I guess if we kind of look at the text, we can get a feel for whether it will work. Yeah. So. And I'm not real happy with it yet, but. So just in case people are listening to the audio, it says, I believe this post is divisive. If you have reasons to believe I'm wrong, you can add them at this link, and there would be a link if they're not already there. And then just an FYI, and this is something that I haven't decided whether we should really suggest including or not, but just to make sure they know that it's not going to be discussed on Facebook, you say, I've turned off notifications to the post, removed it from my feed, and notifies Facebook that I believe it is false. So, and this is just to be an intro, and the goal is that, well, the goal is eventually this person would stop making posts like this and edit this title, but I don't think you can put all that on this. But the goal is that people will be warned that this post is potentially divisive or counterproductive, and yeah, that, you know, if they're open to discussing it, then they have a place to go. Anyways, that's my thoughts.
I like it. There's something about that it's being taken off of Facebook that both makes it very powerful, because it's like the algorithm stopping here, but also less powerful because the algorithm's stopping here. Like, it's like then no one gets to see the link for, hey, let's discuss it here. Like, I'm thinking of it in the terms of like a Pinterest, since Snoops is something that people kind of discredit. Like, when you know what that means, right? Like what this outside link from Facebook or Twitter means, that this is one place to discuss. Or one.
I would think that the opportunity for kind of a viral spread of Reason Score itself would be later on. You could create a post on your own feed that says, I've noticed a lot of people posting stuff about this. Here's what I think. And then that would be the one that you want to have comments and kind of go viral.
Yeah.
But this, I definitely don't want the post that this comment is made on to go viral, because people mostly just see the intro. They don't see the comments.
Right. Now, this does seem to be phrased like specifically for, I guess, what you might call bad posts, right? Like posts that when you personally read, you're like, this is BS. I'm going to put this there. I wonder if you would also want an option. And this kind of goes towards Jubilee's thing of posting it on, like, as a counter comment to something you agree with, right? So if somebody posts something you agree with, and then there's that's BS, it's a conspiracy, it's blah, 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 blah. This becomes then a comment saying, hey, like, I don't agree with that statement, right? Like, but also Facebook isn't the best place to have this conversation, because then every post about this, we have to rehash it. Let's go here instead. And then, you know, we can all post this link anywhere we see this conversation starting.
Yeah, that's a good point. That might be something. Although in that one, I guess that'd be different, because I don't. If the original post is positive, I wouldn't be doing this part. So yeah. That's right. And that's kind of part of what I meant, like, towards Jubilee's thing of, if you're flagging it, trying to get it removed, no one's going to see the comment, so the thing kind of becomes partially moot. But if you're posting it under good things that will, you know, have a bunch of conversation, then hopefully you're just saying, like, you know, if you see that one really bad comment and then there's a comment chain underneath, that's where you're like, oh, well, what's going on there? And if it gets bad enough, you may even post your own top-level comment saying, hey, I recommend people check this out instead of having a conversation in the Facebook comment threads 1,000 times a day on this one topic. I think I want to focus on this top part of combating.
Okay, like on the actual bad posts itself.
Yeah.
So this is my question, because it looks like it's on your bad post, right? Like, the fact you're able to turn off notifications on this pause, remove it from my feed, notify Facebook. Oh, no, you can do that with anyone's post. You're just saying, I don't want to see anyone else's comments. Okay, I was thinking, never mind.
Like, sort of like, you know, the getting the last word and then blocking someone. Like, but by the way, I'm blocking you, and blocking them so they know what happened. It's a bit like that. I'm going to leave this post and then walk away because this whole thing is a dumpster fire. So I just want to give people a chance to go somewhere else and have a non-dumpster fire conversation.
Right, so this dumpster fire conversation. So Adriel and I get a deflate more on Bentley's Facebook page, and he's like, take this off of Facebook. Like,
no.
You know,
I think it's you post on your page, Jubilee, saying, like, I think that vaccines or COVID-19 or animals or something. And then I go on there and we have a conversation somewhere on that thread on your page Bentley says, whoa, this is dangerous. He posts this. And then because he doesn't want to get spammed in Facebook, because as soon as you leave a comment, you follow a thread and you get, notifications every time someone comments. I think he's just saying, hey, I've turned off notifications. I've done this. Like, I'm just saying this because this post is BS. If you want to go somewhere else and have a decent conversation on this, come here. But this is the last I'm posting in this thread because I won't see anything.
Right. So my question that I was getting to in a roundabout way so if, let's say, someone posts about 5G causing, COVID-19, and therefore you post this external link, is that just so Adriel and I can talk about 5G and COVID-19, or is this now the space that everyone can talk about 5G and COVID-19? Is this the same link to all of the COVID-19 5G questions, or is it one space where Adriel and I can have a better way to have our conversation that no one's going to see, and it's the whole reason we're trolling?
So those are all possibilities. The way I foresaw this was this is a place to have a conversation about this post or identical posts. So like if someone's just sharing a meme without comment, then multiple people could use the same thing. And then, I think everyone could be a part of the conversation. I've toyed with only allowing certain people, like the originator of the post and me, through some sort of validation to where they could have the conversation. But I haven't really decided. What I think right now is that what will happen is you go to that, there will be a statement, there will be a reference to that post or that meme, there will be a statement about it, and then there will be all the reasons for and against and the calculations. And then if you want to edit that in the short term, because I don't want to take the time to build a whole moderation framework, is that there's going to be a comment section that's really Twitter. And if you want to change this post, you would make a comment on Twitter. And it's up to the person that created, if you want to change this analysis of the post, it's up to that person that created it to bring that analysis in. But you also know that you're sharing it on Twitter, and it'll show up at the bottom of the post so that they can't edit your comments out. But so it's kind of a stopgap. But anyways, the way it would be is, in the short term, it would be that they have to comment through Twitter, and then that person has to bring it in. And that also gives them a chance for the scoring to where it's not like they go in, put in a stupid reason why, and the score's wrong for several hours until the other person comes in and corrects it. In the future, there would be moderation tools that would kind of handle all that. But right now, as a simple stopgap, it's just like you make your comment out to Twitter, your comment will show there, and it's on Twitter, so the person can't delete it. And then eventually the person should come in and update the map with your information and then why it's wrong, and then follow up with you on Twitter and say. And that's why these would initially be the ones that I would do, because I would do that follow-up, or people that I know. And thus the conversation would be a little slow and a little clunky, but it would, in theory, happen.
I see. So that sounds sort of like having people being able to use this to effectively like, if you really care about, 5G causing COVID-19 and you have a whole bunch of evidence and you want to be able to have the conversation, then you can sort of like have this reason score argument building that's showing the score, have a conversation on Facebook, and whenever somebody has a point that you feel has already been refuted, you point them to that part of the reason score. So it sort of gives you that like canned response almost of like, well, how about this? Oh, I already talked about that. Go here.
Yeah, in the future, I think short term, my main goal was just to express my belief that what this person posted is dangerous and they need to change it. But do it in a way that doesn't trigger Facebook to do a whole bunch more shares because it's only one comment.
Right.
And then give them some sort of convoluted way to have the conversation.
Right.
But that kind of that other thing to where it'll be bigger of a larger debate and you can share pieces of it, even though that's technically possible. I'm not quite ready for that yet. But yeah, In the future, it would be you could share a part of a debate, and that would be a canned response.
Yeah. I wonder, do you think that like the starting off with, I believe this post is divisive and going into that, does that lead a bit into, forget who mentioned it. Well, one of you two sort of mentioned that like people see Snopes as being biased. People see PolitiFact as being biased. And part of that is they have some biased stuff in their histories. So if you read a couple articles, you're like, oh, they're obviously biased and slanted in that direction. You sort of make that stamp in your head and move on. I wonder, like, just the way you're framing it to the response, like it's a post on 5G causing coronavirus. You're saying this is divisive. I have a reason to believe it's wrong, and go here. I wonder how, like, people visiting the post to agree with you will probably click to be like, oh, it's this. But I wonder if the other people are just like, oh, is that just a new Snopes? Meh.
Well, the thing is that, well, it won't be a link to Snopes, so they won't have that preconception
Sorry, no.
bias.
That, but that sort of brand thing, right? Like, my point is, if you're posting a link to Reason Score, but the link is prefaced with, I think that this is fake. Like, I think that your post is fake and wrong and dangerous. Go here to have that discussion. I'm just wondering if prefacing it with, I think you're wrong and dangerous, or you're at least your point is, and then sending them there, like, you're probably not going to say, I agree with this conspiracy. That's, blah, blah, blah. Check out this link on Snopes that totally confirms everything you're saying. That's probably never happened in the history of the internet.
The primary goal is to let other people know that are reading the post that it's wrong. So that's why that's the first thing in the post. Whether they continue on is only kind of a bonus. So I can't think of any other way to accomplish that.
Fair enough.
So just to get my mind around it, bringing in the Plandemic, right? That documentary that was done and released a week or two ago, and it's on everyone's news feed. Both people who are like, "Oh my God, this is scary! You need to watch it," and people who are like, "This is ridiculous! And they're both right, right? Like they're both there. It's not 100% wrong. It's like the pro documentary side. These are experts. They're the experts in the field. The other side's like, actually, no, they're not. They're like, every point needs to be debunked, right? And that's Reason Score's job. So as opposed to this specific tool itself. So what is the difference to a point, right? So I'm someone who watched Plandemic and I posted on my Facebook feed, and then you post this underneath. What are we discussing, right? Because it's a 2-hour documentary. Like, is it, because for people who just brush it aside and say Plandemic is ridiculous, the fact you even posted this, I'm going to unfriend you, is not the answer. And then people who, like that there's zero truth in it or 100% truth. Those two I know are not right. Somewhere in between those two, is there some amount of truth there, and it's not 100%. And so to be able to go through each point. So did I ask a question and can you answer it?
Yes. Yeah, I understand. This is still kind of experimental technology and processes. So I probably would not use this on Plandemic initially. So this would work good on a meme that someone shared about Bill Gates, being the Antichrist or whatever. So where it's a single point. But thinking past that, I would say that the claim here is that the Plandemic movie itself, documentary, is divisive. And I think you can do that you can talk about that without having, well, you would eventually have to debunk every single or most of the points in it, but you don't have to prove that's 100% wrong or 100% right. You just have to prove that 10 or 25% of it's wrong. And then it's like, well, it's now divisive. That's proven that it's causing more harm than it is causing good, which is different from divisive, I understand. And that's why divisive may not be the word used. Depends on what you think this is. It'd be divisive or counterproductive or something like that. Because I think you could, and I think that could be an argument you could actually have effectively, is that this documentary has a net negative impact on society. But I wouldn't try this on one of those. I would hit some lower hanging fruit first and see how that goes. And as the process changes, handle something bigger.
So let's say it is a meme of Bill Gates. I've put a picture of Bill Gates and I'm like, he's the Antichrist, right? That's the whole thing.
Right.
Clearly that's not true, right? Like there's,
Yeah.
but at the same time, there's all of my emotion that's in that. And then there's like, well, is Bill Gates a good person who's doing vaccine research out of the goodness of his own heart, or is he in it for billions of dollars? Or anywhere in between that. But that meme is, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, he's not the Antichrist, but there's a truth under that I'm trying to get to, that maybe this isn't the tool for that. But like, if I post that Bill Gates the Antichrist, someone posts this,
Yeah.
or
So
I say that
yeah.
he murdered this many children in India with the was it India? The vaccine thing that happened in the, like, whatever one fact that I put out there, it's still within an ecosystem of truth. Or back to the pandemic, you show a quote from what the main woman in there, and it's just the quote. Well, then you're going into debunking her. Is she a real scientist? Is she a doctor? Is she, like all of that? It's not necessarily the quote itself you're debunking. And so, like, the bigger ecosystem
right, yeah,
around
and I think it's important not to just debunk the quote, and that is what that's where Snopes and a lot of the other sites, PolitiFact, stop. It's like just the other day they said someone was mostly false when they said that the governor mandated that they open. Well, the guy used the term mandate, but that's not what he meant. He meant the government, and we talked about this in the wiki election thing, is that the governor made a ruling that forces me to open. He didn't actually mandate it, but the result of his is forcing me. So them debunking the word, him saying mandate, is kind of a waste of time. And that's also why I'm just kind of saying this post is divisive and just want to talk about whether this post is done, because it could all be true. So the post that kind of triggered this most recently was a Bill Gates thing. They said these three people that are arguing with the president about the effectiveness of whatever that anti-malarial drug is are all, basically he was implying that they all have ties to Bill Gates, and somehow Bill Gates wants to only focus on vaccines, which I guess they assume he makes money off of the vaccine, which doesn't really make sense. That's the part it was like. And so when I say that this is divisive, I could say you made implications with what you wrote or with the meme that you shared that you're not providing evidence, and it doesn't make sense, and thus this post is divisive. So you don't actually have to even go down the fact of whether it's true or not. Although there will be some things in the future that will have very long tails, and Reason Score has to be able to handle that. And I think it handles it well because of the way it summarizes and organizes information and categorizes it. But yeah, so finding the initial test would be on posts that are a little bit easier to do that. But just, yeah, the other thing was a lot of these people they're posting things that are completely factual. And then they don't even say what their conclusion is. They just imply that something's wrong. Oh, you might want to look at vaccines before you do anything about it. So my point is that's divisive. If you have a reason we shouldn't do it, you need to state it. But just giving wild implications and telling people to go do the research is divisive. And let's have that argument. Let's not even talk about whether it's true or not. This is a crappy post. You need to stop doing it.
I saw a brilliant example of that a couple days ago where it was I'm going to say supposed nurse talking about COVID-19, and she's talking about stuff very vague. It says like, I don't even want to use this as an example, but it's the only thing that comes to mind. And starts talking about like Nazis putting people on train cars and blah, blah, blah. And then just like completely bypasses why that, like what that was and analogy for, and like why she feels like that. Just felt like dropping that Nazi bomb and then kept going with nothing that could actually be proven or disproven because she wasn't saying anything. Like, oh, this is a brilliant post. Like terrible, very dangerous, but like brilliantly worded to just be useless.
Yeah, and you could even say this post is manipulative or something like that,
Yeah.
And then talk about how, regardless of whether it's true or not, it's a net negative impact because of that. Yeah, so really this is just kind of an initial foray into trying to do it on some low-hanging fruit and then learn as a learning experiment.
not so sure there is any low-hanging fruit. I got really heated, might be the wrong, but like there was this shopping cart analogy I've been thinking about all week, and it's like the comment section in that, well, people are inside during a pandemic, the amount of conviction they put into whether someone's a good human being or not based on the fact of whether or not they put their shopping cart away. Like, or how angry people get about people putting a shopping cart away. Like, why is this the right thing to do? One, I did want to have a conversation about the post itself, but just that like a shopping cart brought up all of this, both in me, but also in like the comment section of like, yeah, you're a horrible human being. Like, we might as well just kill all the people who don't put their shopping carts away. Like, I'm like, it's shopping carts. How can you simultaneously say it's not that big of a deal, and yet everyone who doesn't do it is, you know, the Antichrist, Hitler reincarnated? It's...
Yeah. I think that would, yeah. I don't know if that's low-hanging fruit, but that is fodder for, you know, this post is just basically divisive, and it's also inaccurate because you really don't know what was happening in that person. There are valid reasons to not return a card. And
that was like the thing itself was like, there's no valid reason not to return a card unless it's an absolute emergency. You're like, he even like was something about your something and savage, like I was like, just using that word in this day and age shows that you're maybe worse than not returning a shopping cart. But that's the point. If we like optimized all of the whatever, I'm going to get on the shopping cart rant again. We don't need to do that. But like that, because what's happening is even me is reacting to that shopping cart like it's COVID-19 without ever touching that it's COVID-19, right? So it's like the amount of people with the masks who were like, you can't, cold dead hands, you have to make me wear a mask. I'm like, why are you all not up in arms about seatbelts? Like, why do we have to wear seatbelts when we're in car? That's all about you. That's not about protecting other people on the road. It's about protecting the paramedics who come and don't have PTSD from having to clean up your mangled body, but not, you know what I mean? It's not, it is about you, whereas masks are all about everybody else. And the discussion that needs to happen, how responsible am I for you? And how responsible are you for me? And yet we don't look at that for things that are just we're used to, like seatbelts, right? It's like, well, yeah, why wouldn't we have seatbelts as a law? Because it's on your body. Like, why is it? It's in your car on your body. Why does it matter? Anyway.
So yeah, I think some are easier than others. So that'll be part of my job, is finding some and seeing if that's true. I mean, hopefully it's not a situation where I can't have any positive impact unless I build Reason Score completely until I'm done with it. We'll see. Hopefully not. Hopefully it'll have some benefit. I mean, even Snopes and I think that the PolitiFact have had benefit for some people on the margins. I'm just trying to stretch that a little bit further into topics that they wouldn't touch, like the actual intent, not the intent, but what you're actually communicating as opposed to the words you said, like we discussed, and convincing people that are a little bit more on the opposed scale, and have a little bit less accusations of bias, because eventually everyone's points will be included, and thus there'd be little, instead of just a paragraph of here's why we think that you're wrong. let's have it be an open system. So I guess based on our conversation, this kind of comment on a bad post is very narrow, but it seems to be adequate for now. Do y'all think this last little bit about this FYI is valuable, or should it just be this? Let's have this comment out here. I would still suggest you do all this stuff.
Yeah,
because you've already
I think
said
there is value, just so that people know, hey, I won't be replying.
Yeah,
I think it's valuable also because if they're going to start using this tool to also know to post that, like this, it's kind of part of the brand. It's like, we're not going to add to Facebook's algorithm. We're going to take this off and talk here. And so that wording both makes it more divisive, but also like there's a goodness to that. That then means it's like, oh, okay, people are turning off their notifications or moving the feed. They've even like possibly notified Facebook on it. Like that is also what they should be doing, right? Unlike all the other ones that tell me what I should do on Facebook and I never trust them. Here's how you tell them to not sell your firstborn. Go into settings, unclick, sell my firstborn child.
Right. Okay, well, that was good feedback. I appreciate
Do you
that.
have to do all the things you listed, or is it just like you flag it as you think it's false and it automatically turns off notifications and removes it from your feed?
That's a good question. Although I guess even if it did, I would want to explicitly say this so people will know.
I guess what I'm thinking is it might be better to say
Might
sort
take
of
this out.
I've notified Facebook that I believe this is false, and so I won't receive any
Yeah,
notifications about new messages or something, so that it's clear about like, hey, here's the part I did, and here's why I'm telling you. I won't be able to see any replies. Go, you use the link if you want to do this conversation.
Yeah, I'll have to see if that's. Yeah, I'll just make a note so I'll remember. I'll remember what I might have to review this video, but that's a good point. That might be a good rephrasing.
There's the comment we all get doing our tech projects, which is like, why this and not Kialo? Like, why? Like, I know we get that for like literally everything, but like, why another debate tool for this? And this is also the problem with literally all of them. Is like, we need this tool to get to reason score, and yet what we want is reason score. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
This tool, I don't know if it actually does exist, but if I was someone who didn't know TogetherTec and didn't, I'd be like, right, so you want me to go to Kialo, right? Like, you want me to have a debate. This isn't that. It's like how to have what we naturally have on Facebook, but in a more structured way, which Kialo isn't.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to bother saying that up front. I think it's enough to. There might need to be some wording for. Well, I mean, hopefully, in using the tool, we'll see that, because once they kind of get in there and see the scoring system, it should be helpful. Oh, I don't need to debate these points because I already agree with the score, but here's where. So I think the first time they look at it, they should realize that, or they should intuit that it's better than those other options. Although not a lot of people kind of know about Kialo or anything, so the general public, it'll probably be a new concept to them.
They're not the big brand of Google or something. What are you trying to get in on Kialo? We know about it because we're in this space and research that stuff.
It's a pretty small group of people that know about it, I think. But yeah, I don't know if I needed any. What was the other stuff? Oh yeah, and then I'll post the video when I get done with it, and y'all can let me know if y'all have any corrections in that. Every time I look at it, though, I see 4 more things I need to tweak. So it's kind of like, it's a lot of work, and it's not. It doesn't get into the meat of why reason score works or anything. It's just, here's an example. But it took me several days to do that. So
that's such a hard part to divorce the like. I'm kind of trying to make like almost it feels meaningless because you aren't like defending anything. Like, I had the same thing with my explainer videos. I always wanted to deep dive on things I was saying to explain it. Like, no, you can't. It has to be 30 seconds or a minute. You can't do this.
Yeah. And this one already, I think, is several minutes long. But it's an example, I guess, more than an explainer. But yeah. Yeah. I guess that's all I have for now.
It's the last 2 minutes of dealing with my kid having Minecraft issues. I can't actually deal with until we're off. So 15 minutes of no Minecraft. We'll see. We'll see if the world exists in 15 minutes.
Yeah. So Jubilee, you also brought up some, or no? Did we want to kind of talk about crowdfunding a bit?
Sure. Yes.
Because I think that was one of the things you expressed interest. So I've been thinking, and this might be something that just to do a crowdfunding that says we want to gather a group of people who will work on the problem of misinformation on the internet. Here are some of the broad ideas we're going to try. First of all, we're going to try and generate and test communications that you can do on posts that will effectively change people's minds. We will try and create a resource and find a way to mitigate these problems with it, like the fact that it's asymmetric, that it's easier for them to generate bad information than it costs more for them to generate bad it costs less for them to generate bad information than for us to correct it. But maybe as a group, we can correct it together, and then it'll be less work for any individual. So go through just a couple things like that, and not even talk about technology, Reason Score, Wiki Election, or Canonical Debate Lab, or any other things, and just say, hey, you are funding people fighting things, and here are our core beliefs on how we're going to fight it, but we're not sure technically how we're going to do it. I've just been thinking about whether to do that. And then another option is to have that same thing, but be for a specific topic. Like have 4 or 5 of them going on at once saying, here's, if you want to stop misinformation on pandemic or on COVID-19, you can donate to this fund. Fight misinformation on climate change or whatever. And maybe even have both sides of it. Fight the misinformation on COVID-19 being, and have a little caveat saying we're also going to prove part of it's going to be finding evidence and truth, and if you're wrong, your money will. Both sides. Yeah. Anyway, so those are my thoughts on crowdfunding. See what you guys think.
I will say my experience with crowdfunding is it's hard to generate interest in something vague. Like fighting misinformation, we know what it means, partially because we've been thinking about it for 5 or 10 years. But I think it's hard to get people excited, like especially excited enough to pull out their wallets, if it's not like a thing, right? Like you go on Kickstarter and it's like, here's some workout equipment, here's a picture, and a video of people using it, and here's a coloring book, and here's things that people can be like, ooh, I want that, or I don't want that, as opposed to, I want to fight misinformation, but, right, it's like selling a specific toy versus who wants to have fun.
Yeah, it's interesting though. If you get too specific, oftentimes they will nitpick the exact idea. So
absolutely.
I've had it both ways, and so that's why I think it's a balance of specificity. Like you kind of have to have a plan, and that's why I think it's like you have to say we're going to work on these specific challenges.
Right.
Collaborate, bringing all the data together, and like saying the reason why the Snopes and the other things don't work is one of the problems is that they don't allow feedback from the other side, thus they're biased. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the bias by making sure that both sides are that are appropriately represented. Stuff like that are specific, more specific than we just want to fight misinformation, but less specific than we're going to use Reason Score to do it. But I definitely could be wrong about that.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing about crowdfunding is it's a pretty low bar. Like I've already got an account set up on Kickstarter. I've already got that. If we have the content, I could launch this campaign tomorrow.
Yeah, and I do like having a minimum amount, dollar amount before it triggers, which Kickstarter has, I think. But that's one reason why I'm hesitant about doing it on GoFundMe, because if I get $100, it's like, well, that's not enough to do anything with, and I feel bad taking their money and not having anything to show for it.
Yeah, and then you probably just want it like low enough that like it's feasible that you can meet it. Because my first one, my goal was like I kind of wanted to actually start to fund it, start to build it. So I think I asked for 50,000, and I got like I think 1,200 or something like that. And then of course didn't end up getting anything, and that was sort of that was still fairly broad strokes. It was talking about what I was trying to do with Wiki Election, like in the goals and fighting misinformation and this and that. But a lot of the comments I got were like, "How? What are you actually doing? Like, what exactly am I getting if I fund this?" Yeah. So, and I there are things you could do. Like, I could have been better at explaining the sort of the tiers, and in my case, I probably just should have had one with how it was actually structured. Yeah, I mean,
but kind of different goals. Like, if we get $2,000, then it would be, create a single explainer that's better. That's better for sharing than a Snopes page.
Right.
Right. So, and that's what will generate, and that money will go towards hiring researchers to pull the data together. And that would probably work better for like Reason Score or Wiki Elections. Say on this topic, we're going to build the kind of an explainer for that topic. The challenge with that is that I feel like people won't do it for like Reason Score unless I have an example of Reason Score working.
Right.
So I kind of have to fund the first one myself. I don't know.
That's
There
my
might be
experience.
some people that
I think if we could get somebody involved that was just a marketing like genius, they could probably do it. They could take a concept and crowd raise the hell out of it and do it. I'm not sure that anybody on this call or anybody in the like space that we have access to is that good at like broad marketing and stuff like that. I'm up for trying it. I mean, that's the nice thing about crowdfunding is sort of once you're set up to do it, you have the content, you can just do it and then wait to see what happens.
I think a big problem for all of our projects in crowdfunding and us as personalities is that the minds, like our minds want to Reason Score. We want to like sense make, we want to do those things. Whereas that's not actually what people want. People want a safer world. People want, like most people, the vast majority of people, they want their emotions, right? And so we're like giving it to them in the wrong way. We're like, hey, we can help you make sense of the world. They don't care about making sense of the world, as opposed to, hey, we can make sure that everyone's wearing masks or not wearing masks, depending on, I feel like with COVID-19 specifically, people are waking up to how much your trust impacts you, but also everyone else's trust as well. That them coming to the wrong conclusion, whatever the wrong conclusion is really costing me something. And there's something here with crowdfunding of doing a video that like targets that we're like on opposite sides. And yet it's the truth that we need in order to be able to actually tackle COVID-19 specifically. Now, COVID-19
Right.
is not low-hanging fruit, but it's also where people's money, attention, and everything is right now, to be able to do it in a way where it's like, we need access to information that's not coming from our governments, it's not coming from the media. We need it to be from that side. There's something about crowdfunding there of like, and then what you were saying about doing the pro and con side. For COVID-19, it's like the truth of, right? Like without it going through your governments, how do we compare different governments? How do we compare what's going on? Are masks good? Are they not good? Looking at the actual data, because it's also changing. It's not even like something like other vaccines where we've had these diseases for a while, we've had the vaccines for a while, and there maybe isn't enough information. This is like changing daily, you know, from wearing masks to not. How long does it incubate? How long? What are the treatments? What are the effective stuff? Having so there's that I think you could do a crowdfunding campaign on trust in general and getting to the truth. They could generate enough money to then have the geeky debating minds employed on this, right?
I think that has more current pull. Like if you can frame it around, we don't know who to trust. There's no system. You know, if you have 10 people telling us 10 different things about COVID-19, how the hell is the average person supposed to know who to listen to?
Mm-hmm. And having it like somewhat of the process raising as well, which again, I'm in my mind is like starting this Thursday of like, how could we create something with 10,000 people and $100,000? Well, that's not what you're focusing on. It also kind of, it's like if 10,000 people or whatever your number is put money in, but they aren't the geeky people who want to debate it. They're the people who just want to not have misinformation. And then there's, 1,000 of us having the conversation, 100 people getting into the nitty gritty coding and like 10 people actually coding it, whatever that looks like. And with 2,000, it's going to be a much smaller, project and people involved. But there's something about the trust. The other thing I just wanted to state was that this Wednesday, we are doing a solution raising on media. And one of the big pieces is information, right? How do we trust the information? Where do we get our information from? How do we trust it? And so I don't know whether both of you want to participate in that one or whether you actually don't want to participate in it so that you're not there. And then I'm just doing it. And since I don't have a sense-making project in particular, that, you know what I'm saying? Do you guys want to be there to be part of the conversation or just watch it to get that information? And or we can also focus it in a different way to be able to get information from it for you.
So I think it, I don't have a comment on it.
I mean, I'm definitely interested, but I work then, and I'm, can probably only justify taking one during work session a week. So that's the Friday ones.
So I think that I don't know. I think it'd be interesting for me to watch, although I think a majority of what's talked about will be stuff I've heard before. For participating, I would be afraid I would derail the conversation, which it could be done in the end of the thing. But I'm afraid that I wouldn't provide much value. Because I'd be like, but wait, use my system and it'll fix all of that. No one wants to hear that, right? I mean, no one wants to hear that for an hour, right?
Yeah.
But because it's not all about me.
We can just change your picture to a speech bubble saying that and mute you. It's fine.
That's right. Yeah.
I have a solution.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's part of it for sure. And that's the weird part about solution raisings is you get people who have no idea, and then the people who are like the expert who solved it both kind of can be like, I know how we fix food for everyone. It's like, that's not the point. I've fixed all of these problems. Don't worry about it. Like, how do we actually generate something from the base?
Maybe it'd be helpful to listen to everyone's kind of concerns, where they're getting information, why they think there's no trust in that, and then trying to summarize it in the end, saying this is kind of what we need. We need a system where people feel like their point of view is fully represented, right? Because that would build trust in that system. Just those list of things that we need to have this common trust. And I know what I think they are, but it'd be interesting to hear what other people think that is. And I think like one thing is that if your view is fully captured in that system, you really have no choice but to agree with it. Because otherwise, why are you believing it? I mean, there are times where you have a belief that's based, I don't even want to say in emotions, because those could be captured in the system. I don't know. That's one of my underlying beliefs on
it's like if it's based on some kind of an unconscious bias that you're like how researchers say you actually make decisions is you make your decision first and then you justify it.
Yeah.
And so it's like that hits a wall with a tool like this. We're like, well, I already made my decision, but now everything here is pointing in the other direction.
Yeah.
What do I do?
I guess even more dangerous than that is, regardless of whether you made a decision or not, is like that end result, even though it has everything I know and all my emotions in it, like this is bad when this happens, this is bad. It's still, I don't agree with the answer, but I can't explain why.
Right.
And that's okay, because then at least they've realized that they should not expect other people to understand it because they're not able to express it. And so then they know their work is you need to do that internal work to figure out what's missing out of here and come back to us when you have that. But
yeah, I expect to have that same problem with WikiElection as well, where I think the first couple iterations are going to be some issue is going to come down like rather one-sided and the other side will be unhappy. So it's like, great, come talk to us, find out where you aren't being represented, and let's make sure that you can say your facts in a way that makes sense, but they still have to be true. Like they still have to be able to be proven. But if you feel that a certain element or a certain thing, like, look, you're missing this, or you can't assess this kind of evidence, or whatever it is, great. Then let's build that. But it still might come out against you, just so you're aware.
So Jubilee, I might be a value in the conversation if I kind of distill it down to what are the features is the wrong word, but what are the aspects of a process or a system that we think must be there to build that type of trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's an important part of there's the solution raising itself, and then there's also, hopefully we figure this out during process raising, but like all of the other conversations that need to take place, like what do we actually need in a trust system, right? That's going to be spotted throughout the conversation, but to actually have that be the focus of like, yes, what do I need to be in place? Because a lot of what also comes up in trust and sense making is that I need you to come to the same conclusion as me, right? And without that being like, that's my emotion, it's not the truth, right? It's like what I want is the truth, and I want to be able to access it and get as much people to access it as possible. But when I'm in the interaction, what I want is for you to understand my point of view, right? And me, you to understand. And those are very, very different. I don't remember exactly where I was going with that, except that we are at the end of the hour. If anyone has any setup, have any concluding Thoughts?
Nope. Great conversation. Appreciate you
That's
guys.
good.
All right. Thank you. Let's say goodbye to YouTube and Facebook and just hang out for 1 second.
All right.